welcome to this week's Monday Minutes. My name is Kelly.
And my name is Jessie, and a big welcome out to Andrew. Thanks again for joining us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Andrew. I think this is it. We have not had Andrew for a long time. We actually haven't had a lot of guests in a long time. So we should start bringing them back for the summer months.
Yeah. We're excited. So in our continuing quest to show you new enhancements that you're going to see in the upcoming upgrade, we are going to show you today about an enhancement that ties into the importing of records. Have you ever thought about the need to preserve or save certain fields when you're importing records?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Well, today, Andrew is going to show us how this works in the upcoming upgrade. Andrew?
Sure. Let me share my screen and show you my Koha here. Can you see my Koha, my home screen? Great, thank you. All right, so this is a new feature in 2111 MARC overlay rules. This lives in administration, in the catalog section, right here, record overlay rules. There's a permission for this to access these rules. You need to have the relevant permission to get into this area. It's in the admin permissions.
Okay, perfect.
Probably verify that that's true.
Okay, we can do that. I just wrote a note.
So, and here are the rules. Got a small table with a fair amount of complexity built into it. So we define rules here that apply to our changes to MARC records. Jessie, you referred to MARC import, and that's one of the places this can apply. This can also just be any edit you're making to a record in Koha.
Awesome.
Because ultimately, if I bring a record up in the editor and I change something in that screen and then I hit save, that's basically an overlay. Koha's taking the record that's in my interface and overlaying it onto the record that's already in my database. So this can really, apply to anything except a brand new creation of a record. Anything else is an overlay.
That's awesome.
So we've got over on this side where we're looking at module, filter, and tag, that's defining when our rule is going to be applied. And then over here, the sections that are preset, added, appended, removed, and deleted, that's defining what our rule is going to do. I want to start on the what the rule is going to do end of things. So for every rule, we set behavior on these 4 types of action. Am I allowed to add, append, remove, or delete this tag in my overlay? Add and append are about adding data in. And we've got little tooltips that kind of explain this. They're not going to be at all legible in this video, so let's skip them. Added means my overlay is adding an entirely new MARC tag. So putting in an 020 where one never existed before. Appending is adding a new MARC tag where one did exist already. So a second 020 where there already was at least one. And then removed and deleted are the same things kind of in reverse. Removed is taking away a tag where there will still be at least one remaining. So if you have 2 020s and you take one away, that's a remove. And then a delete is, am I taking away the last of these MARC tags? Am I taking away the last 020 and then leaving this record without an ISBN at all? So those are our 4 actions on which this rule might be enforced. And for each one of those, you've only got 2 options, either do or don't. Do, add, or skip. Do, append, or skip. Now, while we've got 4 individual rules there, in the development, they acknowledge that probably there's kind of a finite number of sets of how you want those rules to work. And that's what these presets are. We've got a bunch of options in there that are preset combinations of the behaviors for these 4 rules. So if I make a preset of protect, that says skip all of these. We don't interact with that MARC field at all. Or if I say overwrite, it's allow all of these. We're not protecting this particular MARC tag. Add new says you can do add, but we're skipping everything else.
Nice.
And kind of proceed through there. Add and append does just the first two, but skips the others. And then protect from deletion says you can do whatever you want, except take the last of a given MARC tag out. And then if you need to, you can absolutely come in here and make a custom behavior that says, I want to be able to add a new MARC tag and remove a MARC tag, but I don't want to do anything else. I don't anticipate a whole lot of folks using a custom rule set. It seems like the presets cover most situations you're really going to want.
I like the preset. I like the presets that kind of say this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
In regards of add, append, remove, and delete.
It's a nice acknowledgement of like this level of custom not everybody's going to need, and gets more confusing than you probably want. Because this whole thing, this is a complex system that gets pretty confusing. So let's try to shave off as much of that as we can. Okay, so those are our questions about what's going to happen when we make our edit or our import. Coming over to the other side, module and filter, how do we determine when this rule gets applied? We've got 3 options under module, and each one of those module options gives us different options for filter. So our options here are source, user category, or username. I've got some of these rules applied already. I made a rule that says, if the source of my overlay is the staff client MARC editor, we're protecting some fields. So under source, these are all options of how is this record coming into Koha? We've got a wildcard that says, I don't care. Any source, apply this rule. And then from there, we've got, the basic ways MARC changes happen. Batch modification. So that's a batch modification of existing bibs within Koha. The staff client MARC editor, which is just regular editing. Stage record import, so bringing a batch in. And then Z3950, if you're doing a Z3950 overlay. The last option in here, import lexile.pl. That's a script that I have never seen used. It's in Koha. It apparently I read up on it just because it was here. It's a script to look at your existing records and fetch lexile information and put it into the MARC to give reading levels. I didn't look into it a whole ton. I'm not sure where that data comes from. Dear librarian, if you're sitting around just dying for lexile values, maybe this works. I honestly don't know. I also don't speak to a lot of libraries that are sitting around dying for lexile values in their records. Probably somebody. Anyway, so that's source. We could define which fields we do or do not want to overlay based on where that record is coming from. And I kind of expect that's going to be most of what we see this get used for.
Yeah.
I do want to make whatever changes I want when I'm editing things manually, but when I'm doing batch imports, I want to maybe protect the ISBN, or I'm trying to think what other fields folks might particularly want. Maybe your 856 because you're putting you have a URL in there that you need to I've lost my word. You need to save.
Well, yeah, and there's a local node. Everybody has something different that they are saying, I've stored information and I don't want to remove it.
Our other 2 options then, if we're not going by source of record, we can make rules that apply to a user category. So,
oh, that's nice.
Maybe all of your actual library staff are all in the staff category and they get to do whatever record edits they want, but you've got some volunteers that come in and do like this little bit of record maintenance and you want them to be able to edit a couple MARC fields and nothing else. You could do that as a user category rule.
Mm-hmm.
And our last option in there is just username. Do you need to make a rule for a specific user? Maybe my brain goes first to maybe, Andrew's a terrible cataloger and you make rules that say Andrew doesn't get to change anything. Or maybe this is a little more flowing the other way, being a little more permissive. Generally, we protect these fields, but this distinct list of users, our cataloging team gets full permission. They can edit whatever they want. So we set our module and our filter, and the filter is just the value corresponding. So if I set my module is username, my filter will be the username of that user. Like this rule here, this rule 11 is a user ID rule. For some reason, we call it username in the dropdown and ID in the field. There's a bug to file. Nice, easy related. So if the person performing this action has the username BWS support, they get to do it. They get to overwrite that O2O. And that's the last part. Which tag does this apply to?
Andrew, this doesn't apply to specific frameworks. This is for all.
Correct.
Records.
Yeah, that's a good question. It is not framework specific. It is all records. That'd be an interesting enhancement for this to make it framework specific.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so should we give this a little?
Sure. So I've set up some rules here that are just about edits in the staff client, because that was the easiest place to demonstrate this.
Okay.
And I'm going to just grab a record.
What is that first? Sorry, what is that first rule? It says like 0 ...
Oh, good question. Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say about tags. Your tag references can be either a specific tag like I've got here. So that's just the O2O or just the O22. Or you can put in a dot as a wildcard. So this one is the OXX field.
Got it.
And I could have as easily said, like O2 dot, and it'd be any O2X.
Okay.
Got it.
Your other option is to just wildcard it entirely. You could say, for any tag at all, apply this rule if my module and filter have matched.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to grab a record. Okay. And I'm going to edit it. So based on the rules I have set here, I'm in the staff client MARC editor, and my user ID is BWS support. I've got some conflicting rules here based on what edit I make. So there's going to be some determination of which rule to use. This ends up kind of like circ rules. It's going to enforce the most specific rule set it can.
Okay.
Those rule sets are based on what the developer of this feature called context. Your context is the combination of module and filter. So I'm going to make some edits to my record and I'm going to hit save. At point of save, Koha is going to look at all of my rules and determine, first it's going to group them up by context. So it's going to group them based on the combination of module and filter. So these first two rules will be one group and my third rule will be the other. It's going to group them by context, and then it's going to look in each rule group. Are there any rules in there that look at a specific non-wildcarded MARC tag? Because it's always going to give preference to a non-wildcarded MARC tag first. It also will give preference to something wildcarded like this, the specific position wildcards, versus something that is just an asterisk for everything. So that's the first sort of specificity check. Then, in this case, both of my groups have a rule that looks at a specific MARC tag. So it still hasn't quite figured out which group to follow yet. The next check is a ranked hierarchy of module. User ID is the most specific module because it points at just one person. User category is the next most specific because it's looking at, a group of people. And then source is the least specific because it doesn't care about which user it is. It's just, source. So I'm going to go over to my record and I'm going to edit it and I'm going to save. And Koha is going to look at all of my rules and determine the most specific applicable rule is going to be this one, because it's a user ID rule that is me. I am BWS support. And it's going to generally let me make edits. Because the only rule there is I have given myself permission to overwrite the 020. And really, there's nothing here that says don't. The base assumption is that you can overlay any field. Anything that doesn't have a rule at all is open for editing. So here, come back here, psychological record, hooray. And I will, well, we don't even have an ISBN. Let's put one in there. It's not a good one, but there we go. Well, I got an error. It's an unrelated error. There's no 942C set in this record. It's cool.
But that's a nice new enhancement.
You could click that little go to field, Andrew, and it would go probably directly to that field.
Yeah.
It should. Yeah. This got restyled and got a nice little link.
That's perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, it makes it a little easier. So we'll set that as book and we'll save.
And we have that little error message. Oh, now isn't that a nice authority control enhancement?
It is.
Or I should say record control, but
Record control.
it could be used for authority control.
Oh, I get it. So when I scroll down, so this box goes off the screen. Oh, it turns into.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
Anyway, now I'm going to save. And it put in my ISBN because I'm allowed to do that. And really, as long as I'm logged in as BWS support, I'm allowed to do whatever I want. Hooray, good for me. But
are you going to log in as somebody else, Andrew, and try
let me
it?
switch my share.
So technically, as we're looking forward, you could protect fields from everybody. In essence, like you could have a protection across the board and then have a very specific one user can touch these fields.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Okay, so now I'm logged in as Andrew. Find my psychological record again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that Ivy and Bean one was there.
Yeah, I must just somehow be misremembering the search I did a second ago.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so now logged in as Andrew and not BWS support. I'll grab my rules again just to have them handy. I'm not going to be driven by this rule because it's not going to apply to me.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, it's going to end up enforcing this set. This set says protect any OXX field except the 022, which I'm allowed to change. Andrew only gets to deal with ISSNs, not ISBNs. So if I come back here and I edit this record, that looks like a few too many digits. That's probably not correct. Let's take some off. Save.
Oh, and it's still there.
It's still there.
Nice.
Wow.
Now, really important note there. There was no feedback to me to say your edit's not going to be saved because you don't have permission to do this. These are things that are getting really like deep level baked into your cataloging. And the assumption is that you've set these rules up, you know what everybody's permissions are, you shouldn't be surprised by this, but be aware of it. I mean, test your rules when you make them, make sure they're working as you intend them to, because that was a
Yeah.
pretty quiet change.
I think as an enhancement, it would be nice if there was.
I filed that.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Oh.
perfect. Thank you, Andrew.
Cool.
Just to come back here, edit record, and go to that 022. I'll make a new one.
No wonder why they've given you no permissions to do much.
Yeah, I'm not a reliable cataloger. But yeah, that one saved. It put that new 022 in there because I have permission to do that.
Yeah.
And for that matter, I have permission to do other stuff to this record. I can't change any of these OXX fields except the 022 because those are all locked down. But if I want to come in here, okay.
There we go.
So interesting.
Yes, that 202, that other title just doesn't show up.
It doesn't show up. So I just love this flexibility. I love that you could change the rules
Mhm.
based on how it's being edited.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. I love the flexibility of like, what kind of overarching rule do we have for who can do it? So it could be as specific as cataloger or patron category, or, you know, not really the source.
Yeah.
So there are some amazing things, and this is exciting. I definitely think we'll probably have lots of questions about this.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at tickets to get this set up. It's kind of involved, but really cool and powerful.
I'd love to hear some of the ideas of what some of our librarians are thinking, how they're going to use this, because then we can include that or have people share it on Slack or whatever. This will be get some good ideas that we can share with the community.
100%. Okay, well, this is coming in 2111, which is coming to your cohort this summer if you are one of our partners, and we're really excited. And thanks so much, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, as always, to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.